Hi friends, today I have a haul to share with you, and all of these books are short classics and mostly modern classics, so published in the 20th century. And I've just been loving reading these short modern classics this year, and so I'm excited to build my collection. They're mostly made up of two editions. So I have the Macmillan Collector's Library, which look like this, and also the Penguin little clothbound editions that look like this. And I just think they're both so beautiful. And so these ones are mostly, they're specifically for short stories, novellas, and essays. These ones are not, but I think that this format really lends itself to shorter works. And so yes, so all of the books I'm going to talk about are in either of those editions. And so I have 7 books to talk to you about. 3 are short story collections and 4 are novellas. And I've also read 3 of them, and 4 I have not read yet. So I'm going to start with the 3 that I have read already. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is Passing by Nella Larsen. So this was written and set in the 20s in Harlem. Nella Larsen was a Harlem Renaissance author. And so this is about 2 childhood friends that grow apart as they grow into adulthood. And so the story begins with Irene getting a letter from Claire, letting her know that she would really like to get together and reconnect now as adults. And so Irene then remembers that not too long ago she actually ran into Claire while she was out. And we learned that she kind of has a fascination with her friend Claire because during this encounter, she learns that, so both of these women are light-skinned black women, but Claire has been living her adult life passing as white. And so this is something that's very fascinating to Irene. And so this is very central to the novel. It's all about colorism and race. Claire is married to a racist white man who believes that she is white. And while she has been living her adult life as a white woman, all of a sudden she has this deep desire to kind of go back to her roots and go back to the black community that she grew up in. And she's very fascinated by Irene, and she wants to learn more about her life. And Irene, on the other side, is also very kind of attracted by Claire, but also repulsed. And so this kind of push and pull that they both feel towards each other is what it's all about, and this sort of like pushing of boundaries. So yeah, a really fascinating story, and also the writing is really beautiful in this. Next I have The Awakening by Kate Chopin, which is an early feminist novel that was published right at the end of the 19th century, and it's set in New Orleans and the Louisiana Gulf Coast. And so this is all about a woman's sexual and feminist awakening, and it's really about the incompatibility of her desire for happiness and self-fulfillment and freedom as a married woman and mother because of expectations set on women at the time. And I've actually read this twice already, and I did not own a physical copy yet, so I'm very happy to now have a physical copy. The last book that I have read already is A Spy in the House of Love by Anais. And this is the one that's newest to me. I read it earlier in the year, and I really enjoyed it. But it's funny because based on the premise, it's not a book that I would have picked up on my own, but my husband actually read it and thought that I would really enjoy it, so he recommended it to me, and I'm so glad he did because, like I said, I ended up really enjoying it. So this follows Sabina, a very contentious character that I just found so fascinating to learn about. When we first meet her, we learn that she is very attractive and alluring, but that she seems like she has something to hide, and she definitely does. She is happily married, but at the same time, she has this compulsive need to date other men. and she really believes that this is essential to her happiness. But she feels that she needs to lie to her husband because she cannot see him being okay with her dating other men. Ideally, she would be in an open marriage, but that's just not something that exists as a possibility in her mind. She just does not believe that her husband would be okay with something like that, and so she has to hide it. But she also could not live without having those relationships on the side. And so it's really all about her struggle to have the kind of freedom that she wants and live the kind of life that makes her happy, along with the mounting guilt and stress of the, accumulating mountain of lies that she is living under. And so we get to learn a little bit about her past and also about these relationships that she has with other men. And I am not usually interested necessarily in reading a lot of kind of details about sensuality. But in this, where she talks about these sensual relationships, everything about them, first of all, they're so beautifully written. And they all kind of communicate back so much about Sabina's inner workings, the psychology of the men that she's dating, and also her own. And it's just done so well. I enjoyed it so much, and it's so short. So yeah, I'm gonna link up in the cards another video where I talk more about this book if you would like to hear me talk in more detail about it. But yes, I think that Sabina is a very flawed character, but also very compelling. And so yeah, I would highly recommend this book. So now I'm going to move on to the books that I have not read yet. And the first one is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. So earlier this year, I read Mrs. Dalloway after having tried to read it once before that, and it just didn't click for me then. But on this second attempt, I actually ended up really, really loving it. And so I decided that this would be what I would move on to next from Virginia Woolf. And so this is also written in the stream of consciousness style, and it follows the Ramsay family who live on the coast of Scotland. And so I believe that it's through these kind of thoughts and observations that we get to learn about this family, the different family members, and details about their daily life and their dynamics and those kinds of things. I think there's strong themes of childhood and childhood perspectives in here, because there's like 8 kids in the family. So yeah, I love all those things, so I'm excited to check this out soon. So next I have the first short story in the haul, and it is Katherine Mansfield's Bliss. And I actually decided to pick this up because one of the stories in here, called The Garden Party, was in another book I read recently called How to Read Literature Like a Professor, which is about, it teaches you ways to analyze literature. And so in the final chapter, it actually has that short story in there so that you read it, and then you kind of use the things that it has taught you in order to analyze the text and come up with your own interpretation of it. And I actually ended up enjoying the story so much that I thought it'd be really cool to try an actual short story collection by the author. I don't always end up enjoying short story collections, and so I just, on a bit of an impulse, I felt like this might be worthwhile. So I don't really know what all the stories are about in this, but since I've read The Garden Party, I was thinking I would just tell you a little bit about that story specifically, and I'll be kind of vague so that I don't give things away, which is easy to do when you're talking about a short story. So The Garden Party follows the Sheridan family, who are getting ready to throw a garden party. And it specifically follows Lucy, who is a young daughter in the family. And I want to say she's a teen. I think she's 17, around there. And it's really about how she's at an age where she is noticing the way that her family is teaching her to be, their sort of attitudes towards the world, and then also seeing things outside of their family bubble and kind of noticing some things that feel a little bit incompatible. And so it's all about that, her sort of starting to consider what kind of person she wants to grow into as she gets older. And so without giving any specifics away, she just encounters things throughout her day that make her sort of question the ethics of the way that her family tends to react and act to certain things. And so I'm sorry, I hope that's not too vague, but I just ended up really enjoying that kind of nuance going on. So I'm excited to try out some more of the short stories in here. And Katherine Mansfield is a very new author to me. I didn't really know about her, so I really enjoyed learning that she was from New Zealand and that she was a modernist writer, so a contemporary with Virginia Woolf. A little bit younger than Virginia Woolf, but a contemporary nonetheless. And yeah, so I thought that was really cool. She doesn't write in the stream of consciousness style as far as I know, though. But yes, I'm excited to get to this one soon. Next, I have The Imitation of the Rose by Clarice Lispector, translated by Katrina Dodson. And so this one has 13 stories in it. So some of them are probably very, very short. And I honestly don't really know what the stories are about. But I don't think that Lispector's writing usually centers around plot. But I'm going to read a very short description just to give you an idea, I guess, of what some of these stories have going on in them. The small incidents of life become moments of inner revelation in the luminous writing of Clarice Lispector. A woman contemplating a vase of roses after a nervous breakdown, a tangled mother-daughter relationship, a man's abandonment of a dog, an animal in a zoo. Each one leads to mystery and self-discovery, delight and devastation. So for a bit of context, the only other book that I have fully read by Clarice Lispector is The Hour of the Star. And I actually didn't end up enjoying that much, but it made me so curious to try more books from her. And I actually have a reading project where I would love to read 2 translations of The Passion According to G.H. and sort of compare them. And I've actually started that, but I had to kind of put it on pause for reasons, and I haven't gone back to it, but I definitely will. I promise I will. And I was really enjoying that. I was really enjoying her writing in that. And so I just thought it'd be cool to have a collection of shorter works from her as well, because the thing that I love about her writing is how introspective and psychological she is in her writing. And so that sounds like it might be very interesting in shorter works as well. So yes, also looking forward to this one. Okay, and we're on to the last one, and it is White Nights by Dostoevsky. And this one is also a short story collection, but this one only has 3 stories, and so they're definitely on the longer side. But I'm very interested in reading Dostoevsky. I still haven't read anything by him, but I thought it might be nice to have some short stories by him to maybe dip my toes that way. But for the short stories, White Nights is about a young man in St. Petersburg who falls in love with a woman who is pining for someone else. And so that one is about loneliness and unrequited love. The Meek one is a stream of consciousness first-person narrative that follows a pawnbroker and a young woman that visits his shop. And then A Nasty Business is about a general in the civil service who has these ideas about showing kindness to people in lower social statuses. And he, one night when he's drunk, he decides to kind of act on this belief by crashing the wedding of one of his subordinates. And predictably, that goes terribly wrong. So that's the 3 stories, and just the variety in those is so interesting. And also White Nights was written quite a bit before the other two, like quite a few decades before the other two. And so maybe seeing some differences there in his writing over time sound like that could be really interesting to observe. But aside from these short stories, I am thinking that I would like The Idiot to be my first Dostoevsky novel to read. If you think that's a good idea, please let me know. Or if you would recommend a different one to start with, I would love to know. That'd be really helpful. So those were all the books that I had to talk to you about. I'm really enjoying building my collection of these editions. I know it's not the most important thing, but I do think they look so pretty and it makes me feel very excited to get to them. You know, I think it adds to the enjoyment. I think that's valid. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. If you have read any of these, I would love to know what you thought of them. And yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.